Does the thought of making a quilt overwhelm you, or are you in love with the fabric but just not quite sure what to do with it? Well, we've got some ideas.
And by combining your favorite prints, you're ready to make something for your home that will make quite the statement. I'm Kim.
And I'm Chris, and you're watching The DIY Dish. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The DIY Dish. As you know, we love fabric, but oftentimes people want to add a pop of color to a room without becoming overwhelmed with a much larger project, such as a quilt or reupholstering a piece of furniture.
So how do you combine the idea of adding that bit of color and decor to your favorite room and bringing in those must-have fabrics? Well, with an easy project. The idea is to cover canvases with fabric, and today we're going to show you a great technique that can be done in so many different ways. Now, we've heard it termed as the stitch and flip method, the quilt as you go method, or even the row as you go method, but by whatever name you choose, here's something that will definitely have you thinking outside those lines. So Chris, show us how to get started.
All right, well, this is what you'll need. First of all, you're going to want to choose a variety of 1-inch to 3-inch strips of fabric.
Okay.
So just pick up some fat quarters.
This is a great way to use your fabric scraps, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
we've all got them.
Yep, and you cut them into 1 inch to anywhere to 3 inches. Okay, in width. Then
how long?
It doesn't matter, as long as it's longer than your canvas.
Okay. All right.
So most of the time, 22 inches will probably be plenty. Okay. You also want to pick up some batting, maybe an old canvas you have lying around, or pick one up at the store. You'll also want some adhesive spray, a staple gun, rotary cutter and mat, and your sewing machine. Okay, ready to get started?
Yes.
All right. So here, what I've done first is I've cut out a 12 by 12 inch piece of batting. Now, Kim, this is a fusible batting, meaning that, you know, there's a glue side on the front and the back. So when I put my pieces on and iron it, it's going to stay nice and put.
Nice.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then with my different variety of fabric scraps, I'm going to go ahead and choose whichever one I want to begin with. And I'm actually going to lay this down the center at a diagonal. Okay, do you see that?
Sure.
Now it's okay that the edges are falling off of the batting. That's what you want, because you want to make sure the entire piece is covered.
Right.
Now, once I have that put into place, I will actually take a second piece of fabric.
Now, are you ironing this yet?
I could if I wanted to, but I'm actually going to go to this next step first.
Okay.
And with right sides together, I'm going to place it right on top of that seam line right there. Okay. Then I can take it to my ironing board if I'd like, and make sure it's nice and firm on there. Why don't you go ahead and do that, Kim?
All right. Just press it for a few seconds.
Yep.
All right.
Just make sure that you're pressing just with the tip of the iron, because you want to make sure that you don't get your iron on the fusible.
Okay.
Now, if you have some kind of pressing cloth that will allow you to not fuse the two together, you'll be good to go there. But if not, you're able to do it just fine with the tip of your iron.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. So now I can take it over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to use the 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch right down the side there.
Okay.
Okay. Once I've done that, I can flip it. There you go.
Stitch and flip.
Stitch and flip.
I get it.
That's right. Okay. Now, let me show you an example I have already done right here. So you notice I've stitched it and flipped it, and then I took it back to my ironing board and pressed it down. Now, on the other side, I'm going to repeat that same step as before, where I had taken another piece of fabric, placed it right side down together along the edge, stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and flipped it over.
I love this because you're not worried about the strips being the same width.
Exactly.
They can be all different widths.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes. A lot of variety. Now, if you wanted it to be more uniform, you could definitely say, I want all my strips to be 2 inches.
Sure.
And you would be just fine.
Yeah.
But I kind of like just a
little more
bit
scrappy
messier.
look, yeah.
And so I stitch that, I flip it, and I press it now. So why don't you take that,
Stitch,
Kim?
flip, press. You could do a song out of that. Stitch.
Yes, you could. Okay.
Yes, you could.
Yes, you could. Alrighty. So there we go. It's now nice and put in place.
Okay.
And what am I going to do next, Kim?
I think you're going to put right sides together. Doesn't matter the width. Oh, that's
right.
a big one. Yeah.
So
Oh, and I
down
love that fabric.
and flip. And I'll continue that process.
Until the entire background is covered. Is that
Exactly.
right? Okay.
So here we go. Here's another example here.
Wow.
So you see,
that looks messy.
I have done all of my strips all around. It is very messy,
And that's okay.
and that's okay because now is when I'll take my rotary cutter and actually cut down and trim that off all around the edges. Okay, so then you have a nice clean edge right there.
Okay.
So once that's done, I'll then, what I did on this other piece right here, is I was able to do this same method 4 times, sewed the first 2 together, sewed these last 2 together, and then I was able to sew this row to this row, and I covered my canvas.
Oh, I love it. Why don't you show the back of the canvas so they can
Okay.
see? It's just a little bit beyond, and then you just stapled it, right?
Yeah. Now, what I like to do when covering canvases, and I actually did it with these canvases over here as well, is I like to put a little spray adhesive on the front of the canvas,
Okay.
then place my fabric down on it, smooth it over, wrap it around the edges really nice and tight, and then take my staple gun and staple it to the back where the wood is.
That is fantastic.
And now you've got a great decorative item for your home. You could also use this as a bulletin board
Sure.
if you wanted to. But it's a great way to use lots of fun fabric without having to be overwhelmed by a giant quilt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I love it.
Now there's lots of different things you can do with it. You could actually use this same method and be able to do blankets
Sure.
that way. So let's take a look at some of the finished photos that we have here.
Well, and of course, the ideas don't have to stop there. Here's a few more projects that we made using this same technique.
Right. You see the stadium blankets. We did that.
Oh, you could even do the baby blankets.
Yeah,
as you
a
see
row
there.
as you go. Again, you're using that same idea of taking the rows strips, okay, strips of fabric, and just stitching and flipping it over and over and over. So
Okay.
it's a great way to be able to combine the front and your top, your batting, and your bottom all at the same time.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if you do a quilt like the stadium blanket or a baby blanket with this method, you're actually going to want a backing piece of fabric, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Well, that's if you wanted to have all 3 layers sewn together at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
nice. Thank
All
you.
right.
To close, you'll want to check out all of the great patterns that can be found at youcanmakethis.com, as well as the quilt kits from mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com, both who are sponsors of this episode.
Including the stadium and baby kit quilts as shown on today's show.
Oh, beautiful.
And we'd love to see photos of what you do using the same method. You can post your photos on our Facebook page or Flickr group, or even come see us over at thediydish.com.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope that you felt that creativity was served. Bye-bye.
Bye.